With trembling hands, I write out my thoughts on a plain white piece of paper. That my daughter and I are not biologically related. That she might not accept me. Even so, I love her and want to do everything I can for her. And so, I ask for your help. In truth, I want to do it all for her myself. But forcing my wishes on her would make me no different from my selfish mother-in-law, only seeking to satisfy her desires. I feed the discarded drafts into the shredder and gently seal the completed letter into a white envelope, wishing for her true happiness. This is the story of how we, not bound by blood, became a true family. My name is Mary. I'm 30 years old and love traveling. Since graduating, I've been working as an office clerk at a well-known local company here in Nebraska. At 30, more than half of my childhood friends and college classmates are married and raising kids. As the number of friends who can join me on trips keeps dwindling, even my best travel buddy recently got engaged to her longtime boyfriend and is planning to marry next year. At times, like when I'm sipping a beer in my room at night while catching up on my favorite dramas, I feel a little left behind by the changes around me. That said, it's not like I'm longing for a boyfriend or desperate to get married. I'm fairly content with my current single life. One day, I met someone, my boss, William, who's about 12 years older than me. He had just transferred to our branch here in April. He works in sales while I'm in the office. Our relationship was strictly professional, just the usual workplace exchanges. With his stern look and reserved demeanor, William seemed a bit unapproachable. I hadn't heard anything bad about him, but I didn't feel inclined to get close either. Then, one late summer day as usual, he brought some documents over, and I noticed red marker writing on the back of his hand. What? Fifth Harmony? Without thinking, I read it aloud. William quickly pulled his hand away. The contrast between his serious face and the words caught me off guard, and I couldn't help but keep talking. William, are you and Fifth Harmony's fan?
No. This is Kate's doing.
Kate? Is she your girlfriend?
No, my daughter. I forgot to buy the CD she asked for yesterday. And she cried and got angry. Then she wrote this to make sure I wouldn't forget today.
I see. William, his face bright red, desperately explained in a high-pitched voice. Seeing this side of him, so different from the usual stern expression he wore while staring at his computer, made my heart skip a beat. This man might actually have a surprisingly cute side. After that, I started actively talking to William, and little by little, we grew closer. Eventually, he told me that he lost his wife 5 years ago and now lived alone with his 7-year-old daughter. In return, I shared that I had been divorced for 3 years. The reason? I have a condition that makes it hard to have children. My ex-husband, who desperately wanted kids, had an affair with a younger woman and left me. Although I received a decent settlement, the experience left me unable to see marriage as a source of happiness, and I began to think I'd probably live alone for the rest of my life. When I shared this, William was indignant, saying, "You were right to throw that man away." His words made me so happy that I shed a few tears. 6 months after our first conversation, we naturally began dating. It was another 6 months before I met his daughter, Kate, for the first time. She had a lovely face, a ponytail that suited her perfectly, and healthy-looking skin. At first, she hid behind her father, but by the end of the day, she had warmed up to me completely. We even made plans to attend in Fifth Harmony's concert together. I'm so glad you're coming instead of Dad. It's too embarrassing to go with him, she said, jumping up and down. William laughed awkwardly, his expression hard to describe. I grew close to Kate, and one day she asked me, "Mary, why don't you marry Dad? Would you be okay with me becoming part of your family?" When I asked her that, she held my hand and shyly said, "I want you to be my mom, Mary." That smile made me want to protect her with all my heart. And so, I became part of their family. William, too, didn't mind my condition, saying, "We have Kate." That made the decision easier for me. Sure, there was some pragmatism involved on both sides, but that actually made things more comfortable. My parents were thrilled as well, saying, "We're so happy to have such an adorable granddaughter." They had probably resigned themselves to me staying single forever, so their joy was evident. Next, we visited William's mother, who lived alone in his family home. Upon meeting me for the first time, his mother said, "Oh my, such a young and lovely bride. I'm so happy." She even went out of her way to prepare a cake from the most popular bakery in the neighborhood. While William and Kate went grocery shopping for dinner, his mother chatted with me cheerfully.
"I'm so glad we're getting such a young and healthy daughter-in-law."
Being healthy and energetic is pretty much my only good trait.
"That's the most important thing. William's late wife wasn't very healthy."
Her expression grew slightly stern. I couldn't tell if it was sadness or something else, but the tone stirred a faint jealousy in me. Sensing my discomfort, she suddenly brightened and said,
"But you seem like you'll be fine. I bet you'll give us a strong heir."
"Excuse me? An heir?" I blinked in surprise as she smiled and pressed on.
"When are you getting officially married? Tomorrow, the day after. Once you're married, you should start trying for kids right away. Even though you're younger than his late wife, you're already 31. The sooner you have a healthy baby boy, the better."
Well,
His late wife only gave him one daughter and then passed away. Honestly, it was like a scam. William even said he wouldn't remarry until he raised Kate properly. So, I'm really glad he's finally remarried.
even as she spewed such cruel words, her smile remained intact. It made my spine tingle with unease. "Excuse me,"
"What?"
interrupted. She tilted her head and looked at me curiously. I clenched my trembling hands into fists and took a deep breath. "Thank you for welcoming me into your family, but William and I have decided not to have children."
"Why?"
The stern look on his mother's face made my throat tighten, but she quickly returned to her cheerful expression.
"Oh, you don't have to worry about Kate. She'll be thrilled to have a little brother. So..."
I can't have children easily."
"What?"
This time, her face twisted into something almost demonic. "Oh my gosh." Screaming internally, I met her eyes and shouted as firmly as I could. "I'm sorry I can't meet your expectations, but I will make William and Kate happy. I'll dedicate my life to their happiness. Also, I don't think it's right to speak ill of his late wife. Anyway, that's all I have to say."
"Hey, wait, you."
I grabbed my bag and dashed to the door before she could finish. I crushed the heels of my formal pumps as I bolted outside, running aimlessly through unfamiliar streets until I took refuge in a supermarket to catch my breath. From there, I called William and pleaded, "I've got an upset stomach, and it's too embarrassing to explain. Can you pick me up from the supermarket bathroom?" William and Kate rushed to get me, and after notifying his mother, they took me straight home. I was nervous that she might say something, but all William reported back was a curt, "Take care of yourself." As I lay in bed, pale and exhausted, William and Kate kept peeking in with concern. I debated whether to tell William about his mother's remarks, but I couldn't find the right words and swallowed my thoughts. The trauma of my past divorce over my infertility was deeper than I had realized. Still, after Kate fell asleep, I cautiously asked William, "Do you want children if we get married?"
If you want them, we can consider it. But as long as you and Kate are healthy and happy, I'm content.
His words seemed honest, and I finally drifted off to sleep with some peace of mind. We never ended up discussing the trouble with his mother, and 1 month after that visit, William and I officially registered our marriage. His mother didn't oppose it, and I began to wonder if her behavior had all been a figment of my insecurities over my condition. But one day, out of nowhere, she appeared at our home with a moving truck.
I thought Kate might feel anxious about her dad suddenly getting married. And Mary, you don't know much about William or Kate's preferences yet, do you? I'll stay here for a while to help you out.
With a cheerful smile, she aired those words, leaving both William and me stunned.
Yeah. Grandma's going to live with us too?
Kate cheered and took her grandmother's hand, leading her inside, and just like that, we ended up living together. The manipulative way she maneuvered her way into our home, coupled with her outrageous comments during our first meeting, left me with a sinking feeling. And unfortunately, my instincts proved correct. Before she arrived, Kate used to love saying, "I want to sleep with Mom and Dad," and the three of us would happily share a bedroom. But my mother-in-law started saying things like, "Mom and Dad are newlyweds now, so you shouldn't bother them," and would take Kate to her own room. During the weekdays, his mother took care of the cooking and cleaning, but her dinners were suspiciously full of energy-boosting ingredients. She even slipped a book titled "How to Seduce Your Husband" into my work bag. When a colleague discovered it in the locker room, I was mortified beyond belief. Her intentions were blatantly obvious. She had moved in to pressure me into having a child. Even though I had told her I couldn't conceive naturally, she seemed to believe that trying repeatedly would solve the issue. William, frustrated by her behavior, took my side and told her,
I'm too old to have more children.
but she clung to the belief that as long as the mother was young, there was no issue, and ignored him completely. Finally, I confronted her myself. "I need medical treatment to have children." Her face contorted with disdain, and she spat, "You tricked William into marrying you, defective as you are." Then, with a glare, she said, "You'd better fulfill your duties as a wife, even if it costs money." William and I both agreed that we'd rather spend our time and resources on Kate, who was already here with us, than chase the slim chance of having another child. For us, treatment was not an option. William and I had always been on the same page, and he was always on my side. But Kate was different. The girl who had once shyly said she wanted me to be her mom was overjoyed when we first got married. However, after her grandmother moved in with us, Kate's behavior began to change. She started tensing up whenever she saw me. Even when we made plans to go shopping together on weekends, she would suddenly cancel, saying, "I think I'll just go with Grandma instead," with a gloomy face. Eventually, she avoided the living room whenever I was there, and her responses became curt when I tried to talk to her. When I asked her if everything was okay, she would just look away and say, "It's fine." Worried, I confided in William, wondering if I had done something wrong, but he could only shake his head in confusion. Watching the strained relationship between Kate and me, my mother-in-law would furrow her brow as if troubled and say, "Oh dear." When we were alone, she would whisper things like, "See, a woman who's never had children can't possibly be a good mother," or, "Why don't you try having your own child? Then you'd understand how to raise a child and how Kate feels." I knew better. Blood ties weren't the only thing that defined a parent-child relationship. But her words weighed heavily on me nonetheless. The cohabitation, which was initially supposed to last only until Kate got used to her new mom, stretched into 1 year, then 2. Even when William told her, "We're fine now, so you can go back home," she'd reply, "But you're still struggling. You need me," showing no intention of leaving. Kate also insisted that she wanted her grandmother to stay, leaving William and me unable to make her leave. Time flew by. The once 8-year-old Kate was now 15, a third-year middle schooler at a critical crossroads in her life. Even after 7 years, our relationship hadn't healed. If anything, her teenage years had widened the gap between us. Still, I treasured her as my daughter and tried my best to support her. Then came the parent-teacher meeting just before summer vacation. Kate, who was in the tennis club, had achieved national-level results. As a result, prestigious private high schools were inviting her to enroll. "You've worked so hard." Kate softened her expression slightly, seeming somewhat pleased.
Kate has even caught the attention of out-of-state top-tier schools.
Her homeroom teacher, Mr. Martin, said proudly, "That's amazing, but I'd worry about her living alone if it's out of state."
Oh, that school has dorms. It's quite popular with parents.
Well, in that case.
I'm not going.
Kate suddenly stood up, shouting over our conversation. "Kate?" I looked up at her in shock, only to see her glaring down at me with angry, tear-filled eyes.
I'm not leaving that house. No matter what you try, you won't get rid of me.
"Kate?"
Kate, wait.
Mr. Martin called after her, but she bolted out of the room. When I returned home, breathless, my mother-in-law was standing firmly in the entryway, arms crossed. "Where's Kate?"
She's in her room. She doesn't want to see you.
"I see." As I lowered my head, she let out an exaggerated sigh.
What a terrible parent you are. You can't even understand a child's delicate heart.
"But..."
No, but, or excuses. You're not a child anymore. That's why you should have had a child of your own and become a proper parent.
Silence.
You're already old, and on top of being defective, you've only deteriorated further.
Silence.
It's time you face the truth. 7 years, and you still can't get along with her? You're simply not fit to be a parent. Maybe it's time you considered stepping away.
Silence. I couldn't muster a response to my mother-in-law's veiled suggestion of divorce. Her words pierced right through my most vulnerable parts. Am I a failure as a mother? Late at night in our bedroom, I murmured this to William, who lay beside me.
I don't think so. I know how much you love Kate.
He said as his warm hand enveloped mine.
But if it's too hard for you, I'll respect whatever decision you make. You're still young, and you can start over if you want.
His voice was sad yet sincere. I closed my eyes and let memories of the past 7 years wash over me. I imagined a future without William and Kate. And then, I made my decision. I wouldn't stop being Kate's mother, not unless she told me herself that she didn't need me. As soon as I resolved this, a weight lifted off my chest. When I shared my decision with William, his face softened in relief. Even so, my relationship with Kate didn't suddenly improve. She stopped involving me in any discussions about her future schooling. So I secretly wrote a letter to Mr. Martin, her teacher, asking him to support her in choosing a school where she could truly pursue her passions, whether it was in state or out of state. Mr. Martin called me privately and promised to do everything he could. Thankfully, he was a wonderful teacher. In the end, Kate chose a prestigious tennis school outside the town, though it was still close enough to commute from home. Her high school years were consumed by early morning practices and late night training. During that time, I took on the role of making her lunches for morning practice and midday meals, and I also drove her to and from the station. William offered to help, but I wouldn't let him take over. Every morning, Kate would take her lunch with a reluctant expression, and every evening, she would silently climb into my car for the ride home. After a year of this routine, Kate quietly mumbled,
Thanks.
"Oh?" Surprised by the unexpected gratitude, I asked again, but she turned bright red and quickly ran off. From then on, little by little, her responses and casual remarks increased. Bit by bit, we started having conversations again. She still didn't smile at me, but things improved enough that I could confidently cheer her on at her inter-high tournaments. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law continued her passive-aggressive remarks about my role. But over time, I noticed that Kate seemed to be distancing herself from her grandmother. Though my mother-in-law seemed irritated by this, her energy wasn't what it used to be because her health had declined as she entered her 70s. 10 years after William and I got married, Kate, now a high school senior, was accepted into an out-of-state university on a recommendation. It was too far to commute from home. No matter where you go or how long you live alone, you'll always have a home to come back to. She gave me a small nod in response. The night before her high school graduation, I couldn't sleep. Sitting at the kitchen table, sipping wine, I suddenly sensed someone behind me. Turning around, I saw Kate standing there in her pajamas, staring at me. "What's wrong?"
Well,
She fidgeted with her hands, a rare sight that reminded me of the little girl I had first met 10 years ago. "Come here." I beckoned her over, just as I had back then. She hesitantly approached, like a cautious stray cat. When I tried to pat her head like I used to, I found I couldn't reach anymore. "You've grown so much," I murmured, lost in nostalgia. A single tear rolled down from Kate's large eyes. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" I panicked, not expecting her to cry, but Kate shook her head as if to say no.
I'm sorry.
"What are you apologizing for? What's going on?"
Wah!
The 5 feet 5 inches tall high schooler burst into tears like a little child, leaving me completely at a loss as to how to comfort her. "Well, here, have some candy. Just suck on this and calm down, okay?" Kate reluctantly took the strawberry candy I offered and began licking it. The sweetness seemed to soothe her a bit, and she started speaking in halting sobs. She regretted the terrible attitude she'd shown me all these years. She couldn't believe the love I gave her was real. She was actually happy that I had become her mother. But she had been afraid that, since we weren't biologically related, I would eventually abandon her. As she poured out everything she'd been holding on to for the past 10 years, my chest tightened with empathy for her pain. I would never kick out my precious daughter. For one thing, your dad and I never planned to have any children other than you.
Really?
Really, you're more than enough for me. Why would you think I'd want to push you away?
Because Grandma said.
Grandma?
She said that you and Dad wanted a child of your own. That if you had a biological child, you wouldn't care about me anymore. She said I wasn't needed.
No way. Her words sent a chill through my heart.
I didn't want to believe her, but she would tell me every night before bed. I started to think, what if it's true? Even though you're so kind, I was scared that it would all disappear if you had a brother or sister. I didn't know what to do.
Kate.
And then I started to hate you. Grandma would say things like, she's trying to kick you out of the house, or she only married your father for his money. So when you encouraged me to consider out-of-state high schools, I thought you were a demon trying to get rid of me.
I never meant to.
I know that now. I do. But back then, I didn't. But at my middle school graduation, Mr. Martin gave me this.
What is it? Kate handed me a slightly yellowed white envelope. It was the letter I had given Mr. Martin 3 years ago, asking for his help with Kate's future.
Mr. Martin said, "You're lucky to have such a great mom, but at the time, I was too childish. Even when I read your letter, I thought you were just pretending to be nice.
I see.
But in high school, you prepared not one but 2 nutritious lunch for me every morning. You always picked me up no matter how late my practice ended. And no matter how awful I was to you, you were always on my side. You can't fake that or do it out of obligation. You did all of that because you're my mom, because I'm your daughter."
Kate.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you for being my mom. I'm sorry for everything.
Tears kept streaming down her still youthful cheeks. I stood and pulled her into a tight embrace, cradling her head against me. I wished I could have held her like this sooner more often. But it wasn't too late now. Come home for summer and winter breaks, okay? I'll miss you if you don't.
Yeah, I will.
I'd love a piece of baked cheesecake as your gift.
Oh, come on.
The head in my arms let out a small laugh.
That's my favorite.
That's right. I just love seeing your face when you're enjoying something delicious, I said, laughing along with Kate as tears slipped from the corners of my eyes. 1 month later, with a radiant smile, Kate stepped confidently into her new world. I patted William's back as he sobbed openly. The weight we had been carrying for so long felt lighter now, leaving us with a bittersweet mix of happiness and loneliness. But it wasn't a bad feeling. It was time to clean up the last bit of negativity lingering in our lives. I picked up my phone and made a call.
What do you think you're doing?
1 week after Kate started her new life, a moving truck appeared in front of our house, this time to load up my mother-in-law's belongings. What do you mean? I'm simply sending you back home now that you don't have anything left to worry about.
Sending me home? Are you trying to kick me out?
As my mother-in-law screeched, William spoke in an emotionless tone.
Kick you out? This was never your home to begin with.
Mug.
Indeed, she still had her own house. A 65-year-old home passed down by my father-in-law. For the 10 years she had lived with us, she hadn't done any maintenance or cleaning on it. The house was now drafty and riddled with leaks. It wasn't for Kate that she reluctantly clung to this house. She only thinks about her heir, and there is no way she would live in this house for such a purpose. But it was clear she had grown accustomed to the comforts of our modern home and didn't want to return to her dilapidated one. Ever since Kate started middle school, my mother-in-law had claimed, "My back hurts," and left all the household chores entirely to me. The kitchen, untouched by any renovations, and the outdated appliances, which might not even function properly anymore, made it questionable whether she could cook at all. She tried desperately to argue.
But I'm 75 years old. Are you really going to make an elderly woman live alone?
"Oh, you want to live here with a defective daughter-in-law?"
What?
"I'd rather not. Living with someone as cruel and inhumane as you is unthinkable."
What?
"I've heard everything you did to Kate." My mother-in-law's face twisted into a look of regret, her mouth moving wordlessly as if searching for an excuse.
I only said those things for your sake. Sure, I wanted an heir, but you must have wanted your own child too. I was helping her understand that. You should be grateful for everything I've done.
Don't project your delusions onto us. I married William to be Kate's mother.
Oh, come on. Let's drop the act, okay? You wanted your own child, didn't you? There's no way you could truly love a child that isn't yours by blood.
I feel sick just thinking about being related to you by blood.
What?
William's icy words made her go pale.
This house belongs to my family. Get out.
I'm family too. I'm your mother.
My family is my wife and daughter. No one wants to live with someone who treats a wife like a baby-making machine and wounds their grandchild to fulfill their selfish desire. I don't consider someone like that family.
William?
Never show that face to Mary or Kate again. Never call yourself a parent again. I will never forgive you. And I will never call you Mom again.
Oh no.
She collapsed, her spirit seemingly drained. Her younger brother, whom William had called ahead of time, arrived and escorted her back to her long-neglected home. With her weakened legs and a decade of not driving, it would be nearly impossible for her to make the 3-hour trip from her rural town to our house. William's uncle and aunt, who lived nearby, promised to keep an eye on her. Finally, we had a home where Kate could return without worry. For the first time, I took a deep, liberating breath in this house. 2 years later, I walked alongside Kate, who wore a vibrant dress adorned on her way to the ceremony venue. Passersby congratulated her, and she smiled shyly.
"You're the spitting image of your mother. So beautiful."
An elderly woman said, glancing back and forth between us with a kind smile.
See? Told you.
Kate said with a proud grin. The dress had been a gift from her biological mother, meant for her when she had married. Kate wore it with confidence, her back straight, walking more beautifully than anyone else. I walked beside her, holding my head high. Blood ties or not, near or far, my love for her was unwavering. I was her mother.
See you later, Mom.
See you? I replied, watching her join her friend. Thank you for being born. I whispered, my breath forming a white puff that drifted into the crisp winter sky.